guys, I finally got my new tires in, so I'm going to take the old ones off, take them up to the tire place, get them put on the rims, and then bring them back here to put them on the car. I'm not going to drive the car up there and get the wheels put on because I know there's going to be some suspension changes I'll have to make, and I don't want them rubbing all over the tires on the way back. So I'll do all that modifications and whatnot once I've got the tires fitted to the car. So that's what I'm going to do. Emergency brake is on, so I didn't feel the need to break the lug nuts free before I lifted it up. Alright, so that's a 26-inch tire, really just shy of 26 if you do the math. And that's a 28-inch tire side by side. And the track is the same, whatever you want to call it. 275s on both. Aspect ratio is just different. These are 275 40s versus 275 50s. So there you go. We'll see what they feel like on there. Ooh, good difference. Bit of difference in the compound there, especially being that they're that old. So let's see, what else while I got it off? Well, I'll wait for that stuff till I get back. I'll go ahead and load this stuff into the trunk. Hopefully. I think I got enough room. All right, what's it? Wash my hands and I'll stop to the tire store. Alright, so mounted and balanced. I just had to put 20 pounds in for right now. You can always take some out or add more. We'll see what the ride quality's like, and just after initial test, that's probably a good baseline. I'm just going to stick it on here and see whether it clears with the suspension in the default position or where I've got it right now. I've got lots of adjustability. Well, I've got some adjustability on the lower control arms. Really not happy with the springs I got in this thing right now, and that may need to change. But for the most part, I think I should have enough to restore the clearance that I had before. But one way to find out, probably going to have to roll these fender lips too. We'll see. Front to rear looks pretty good. It just depends on how much it's going to come down. It actually doesn't look bad top to bottom either. It comes outside the lip pretty good. There's only about a little less than one finger now. There's two before, which pretty much makes sense. It's the corners that make it scrape. Just driving straight down the street doesn't really make it rub. Let's go over a really big bump. But when you turn, this thing doesn't have very good roll stability, I guess you could say. Got a sway bar front and rear, but they're of marginal utility. So that may be something I look at in the future. But I think that I'm going to go ahead and bolt them on in there. But a lot of lists, so literally, handling, traction, push our right position. We got to watch. And always sorry, care about that. Got lots of wheels flying around. Those feet are highway. It's not fun. It's super dangerous. So, big hands, 110. Got that. Highway, fire, shut up. Just have them around, no go around. Deal. All right, let's see what it looks like on the ground. No, didn't drop far. Yeah, they're big. Sweet. Hey guys, since the last time I talked to you, I've done a little bit of work, not a whole lot. Weather's been really crappy, as usual. February and March suck around here. So, I have taken the car out, hello, backed into something. I have taken the car out for a drive with the new tires, and they feel pretty good. It holds the top of second and third well now. Haven't really had an opportunity to put the pedal to the metal in fourth for obvious reasons. No obvious signs of rubbing, but I did notice that, let's see if we can get you a picture of this. The right-hand side, the point of closest approach is just inside where my finger is right now. There's very little room between where my finger is right there on the corner, the left front corner, I guess. And now I haven't beaten any of that back. I did take a hammer to the wheel wells here and get that out of the way to give myself a little extra room, and that worked out just fine. I don't have one of those fancy tools to do it, nor do I have a baseball bat, and I wasn't really convinced I'd be able to do it that well, so I just tapped until I got some room there. So my concern is really this area right in here, and there's a little bit more room on the other side. So what that's telling me is that the axle isn't exactly perfectly square underneath the car. So, or it's probably square. I did my best when I installed it to make sure it was square, but it's not exactly the same from left to right. So there's more room on this side than there is on the other. So I'm going to make an adjustment to the panhead bar to equalize that gap just a little bit to prevent any rubbing, or at least the chance of too much rubbing. So the panhead bar makes that pretty easy to do. This would be tough on a conventional suspension, but here essentially by loosening up the two nuts on either end of the panhead bar and making some adjustments to the bar itself, I can move the axle laterally, and I don't need to move it much. There's probably maybe 1/8 of an inch just to equalize the distance from left to right, and so that is essentially what I'm going to do. So in order to be somewhat accurate with this, I think what I'm going to do is just kind of lay a string line over the left tire. That's where it's just barely touching, and then move it a little bit until it moves away from the string line. So let me get set up, and then I'll show you what I did with that. All right, so I changed my mind. Instead of going with a string, what I did was I just put a carpenter square there and rested it up against the tire with a couple of bricks just to hold it in place. So as I adjust the panhead bar, I should see a gap up here between the tire and the framing square, I think is actually what that's called. And so I'll be able to tell. Like I said, I just want to put about maybe 1/8 of an inch out from there, subtract it from this side, add it to the other side, and that ought to give me the clearance I need. So I don't know if I'll be able to set up the camera where you can see what I'm doing and monitor where that framing square is, but maybe. We'll see. Let's try that. I'd actually almost rather give you a picture of this, because to adjust the panhead bar, it's kind of ridiculously simple. It's just 2 jam nuts, and then you turn the bar, and depending on which way you turn it is the way the axle will move. So we'll leave you right there. We'll grab some tools and put it down. There we go. Just needed to get broke free. A little bit of schmutz on those threads. All right, so you might have noticed that the pannered rod, because the suspension's at full droop right now, is at an angle. So making an 1/8 of an inch adjustment over here is not going to be an 1/8 of an inch at ride height because of the geometry. I'm not going to go and do the math and all that, but it's not all that precise. As long as I bring this tire over just a little bit, once I put it back down at ride height, then it'll actually be a little more at ride height because the bar will be straighter. So I'm just going to kind of keep an eye on that as I move it. All right, so this panner bar works a lot like a turnbuckle. So when you turn it, it's going to shift, get shorter and longer essentially. And so let me double check to make sure my thing is right there, and it is. Try to get you a little closer, maybe you can actually watch it move. Let's try that, a little less glare. All right, so we'll see what we got here. Right there, you could actually see it move. That was about a half turn on the pannered bar there. I'm going to go just a little bit more. Right about there. Okay, and I'm going to retighten up the jam nuts now. All right, that should take care of that. I won't know until I actually put it back down on the suspension. But before I put it back down on the suspension, one of my mufflers is drooping a little bit, so I'm going to fix that while I'm down here. And after I redid the suspension, or not the suspension, once I redid the exhaust to keep it from banging around and everything, and get it up off the ground a little bit better, that one muffler is a little crooked, so I'm going to loosen it up and twist it back up into shape a little and go from there. Get some tools. All right, okay. All right, that should be the end of that somewhat routine maintenance. All right, I'm gonna let the car down, and it's kind of rush hour right now, but I think I'll probably wind up taking a drive If not this afternoon, tomorrow morning, and I'll have you guys come along for that. All right, that's enough for now. A little chilly this morning, but looks to be a nice day. So we're gonna get the laptop fired up, download a new calibration with a couple little tweaks in it, and then go for a drive. One of the things I'll be looking for in the logs today is comparing the GPS speedometer readings with the vehicle speed sensor readings. Since I changed the tire ratio, I'll have to adjust those a little bit, so I'll try to get a little comparison between the two. That'll allow me to recalibrate the ones for the ECU. I'll be getting started here in just a little bit. A couple of things that I changed for this calibration. One is that I'd gotten the fuel settings pretty good for a warm start, which has given me fits for a while, but then I took a little bit too much fuel out and wound up having to go back and add some more in for the cold start. So you can see here on most of these charts that the temperature is below about 60 degrees, added a considerable amount of fuel. It's just basically the start template that I use. So not a whole lot of changes between the last calibration and this calibration. We'll see how well the cold start works after I get this uploaded. So all right. Let's see how she starts. Start the log. I'm going to do that one more time for the prime, because it took me a second to get everything going. Nice. So I'll just need a little bit more fuel. Those cold temperature ranges and a good prime. All right, let's go for a little drive. Drivability is really important to me. If the car's not fun to drive, and I don't mean just when you're on it, if it's annoying to drive, then you pretty much failed. It's one thing if it's a race car and you only drive it on the street a little bit, but I'd like to get to the point where I can take this to work every once in a while, you know, without it being an ordeal. And right now it's pretty good. You know, the track's pretty well. Not a whole lot of pulling one way or the other. And provided the road is halfway decent, it's not a rough ride. So I'm trying to strike that nice balance between responsive handling and a good ride is difficult at best. Got some good voltage, charging system's working all right, oil pressure's good, right up around 50. Water temperature's still a little slow coming up, so I'd rather have a little extra capacity than not enough. I think we're going to take the long loop today. No real drivability issues right now. Tell you what, we're going to go this way today. down to idle. I'm going to let it idle here just for a minute and see what it does. See, yeah, it's trying to stumble out right there. Still got a little bit of a roll. Let's see what it does. I'm just going to let it ride. Yeah, it starts getting down there around 600 RPM and stuff, and doesn't like that. That's going to be the fuel map right there down at the bottom, and a little bit of idle motor settings. So we'll check that here on the next time out. There it goes. Oh, it caught it.